Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into, well, the incredibly small world of subatomic particles.
We are indeed. It's all thanks to a really interesting essay by Jürgen Schneeppert called Tetraquarks, rätselhafte Teilchen in der Quantentechnologie.
That translates to enigmatic particles in quantum technology, right? Our mission today really is to understand these tetraquarks and why they're such a hot topic.
Exactly. And particle physics can get pretty mind-bending, so let's start simply. What are tetraquarks?
Okay, right. So, matter is made of atoms, protons, neutrons inside.
The basics.
And those are made of quarks, usually 3 in a proton or neutron, or a quark and an antiquark in things called mesons.
The standard picture, yeah.
Tetraquarks, though. They're different. They're exotic hadrons particles ruled by the strong force, but they have 4 quarks, usually 2 quarks and 2 antiquarks.
It's like finding that 4-leaf clover, as you said before. Possible, but definitely not the norm.
And what's really surprising, you mentioned this, is the idea's been around since the 60s.
Yeah, floated back then. But it's mostly theoretical for decades. It's only relatively recently, maybe the last 20 years or so, that experiments have really nailed down their existence.
And that's shaken things up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It challenges how we thought quarks always paired up. It even nudges at the standard model, our best rule book for fundamental particles and forces.
Wow. So it's not just some weird footnote. These tetraquarks, they actually give us a deeper look into the strong interaction.
Exactly. That's the force holding quarks together, described by quantum chromodynamics, or QCD, studying these 4 quark states. Well, it could open up totally new ways to understand fundamental forces.
So this 4 quark surprise is forcing us to look again at the basic rules of how matter sticks together.
Precisely. Let's rewind to the origins. Murray Gell-Mann, back in the 60s, developing the quark model.
A pioneer.
Right. He actually proposed these multi-quark states might exist. It was a time when physicists were discovering tons of new particles, trying to make sense of it all.
Like organizing a zoo full of strange new animals.
Pretty much. But there was skepticism. Early QCD seemed to suggest quarks really preferred those simple pairs or trios, mesons and baryons.
So the strong force seemed to like simplicity.
That was the thinking. The idea of 4 quarks sticking together seemed less likely, maybe unstable.
It all remained a maybe for a long time.
Exactly. Until the 2000s and the big advancements in experiments. Accelerators like the LHC at CERN, the Bell experiment in Japan, they got powerful enough.
Higher energies, more precision.
Yeah. And they started seeing these anomalies. Little unexpected bumps in the mass measurements of hadrons. Things that didn't quite fit.
Like static on the radio hinting at a different station.
Good analogy. And those bumps were the first real compelling hints of tetraquarks.
And finding them, it's actually a good thing for QCD, right? Even though it was unexpected.
Oh, absolutely. It confirms that QCD allows for these more complex states, making the theory even richer. Plus, it gives us new systems to study. Well, we can study the strong force dynamics in these 4 quark arrangements. How stable are they? What holds them together? It's a new laboratory for testing QCD.
And you mentioned potential links, maybe long-term, to quantum tech.
Yeah, it's speculative, but understanding these complex quantum systems, how these quarks bind and interact, that fundamental knowledge could eventually inform ideas in quantum information or simulation. No direct use now, but the understanding matters.
Okay, let's talk QCD then. Quantum chromodynamics. You said it's the theory of the strong force.
That's right. It's a key piece of the standard model. It describes how quarks interact via that strong force. Think of it as the rule book for quark behavior.
And the players in this rule book are the quarks themselves, coming in different flavors.
Exactly. 6 flavors. Up, down, strange, charm, bottom, and top.
Up and down make protons and neutrons the everyday stuff.
Correct. They're the lightest. Strange is a bit heavier, found in particles like kaons. Then you get the heavy ones. Charm and bottom.
Which are important for tetraquarks, you mentioned.
Very important for many of the ones we found, yes. And finally, the top quark, super heavy, super unstable, decays almost instantly.
A whole family of quarks. And they have another property, color charge.
Yes, color charge. Nothing to do with visible color. It's just a name for the type of charge the strong force interacts with. Comes in red, green, and blue.
And antiquarks have anticolors.
Anti-red, anti-green, anti-blue. Exactly. It's like a special kind of charge that dictates how they attract and repel via the strong force.
And that force is carried by gluons.
Gluons, yes. They're the force carriers, like photons for electromagnetism.
Yeah.
Massless spin-1 bosons. But here's the kicker.
Uh-oh.
Gluons also carry color charge themselves. unlike photons, which are electrically neutral.
Okay, why is that important?
It leads to two really weird effects.
Right.
Color confinement and asymptotic freedom.
Right. Need to unpack those.
Okay, color confinement means you can never isolate a single quark. Because gluons carry color, the force between quarks doesn't weaken with distance, it actually gets stronger.
Like a rubber band that gets tighter the more you stretch it?
Exactly. Pull too hard. And it's easier to create a new quark-antiquark pair from the energy than it is to pull the original ones apart. So quarks are always confined inside hadrons.
Wow. Okay. And asymptotic freedom.
That's the flip side. At very high energies, or very short distances, like inside a proton being hit hard in an accelerator, the strong force gets much weaker. Quarks act almost like free particles in that environment.
So they're clingy at a distance, but give each other space when they're super close or energetic?
That's a great way to put it. It's bizarre, but crucial for how we study them.
Okay, so with QCD in mind, how do tetraquarks fit into the big picture of hadron classification? We have the standard one.
Right. You've got baryons, 3 quark, protons and neutrons, also heavier, unstable ones called hyperons.
Got it.
Then mesons, 1 quark, 1 antiquark, like pions, kaons. The JPC mesons, another famous one.
Standard model family.
Exactly. And then the exotics, hadrons that don't fit the simple QQQ or QQAR pattern.
And that's where tetraquarks live.
That's where they live. 4 quarks. But they're not alone in the exotic zoo. There are also pentaquarks, 5 quarks.
Oh, okay.
4 quarks and an antiquark, typically. Discovered fairly recently, too, another big surprise. And maybe hybrid mesons, a quark-antiquark pair, but with an active, excited gluon contributing.
So tetraquarks are part of this whole expansion of what we thought was possible with quarks.
Precisely. They show QCD is richer than we first thought, allowing these complex combinations. It really highlights that the strong force still holds secrets.
So digging into tetraquarks themselves, 4 quarks, how are they actually arranged? Is it just a random bundle, or is there structure?
That's a key question. It's definitely not just a random bundle. Unlike a simple meson, these 2 quarks and 2 antiquarks can arrange themselves in, well, potentially different ways.
And that affects their properties.
Big time. Their mass, how they decay. It all seems to depend on this internal structure. We see different types, like charmonium-like ones.
Meaning they have charm quarks.
Yeah, a charm and an anti-charm quark, plus a light quark-antiquark pair. The X3872 particle is the classic example. Is it CC bar plus UG bar, or CC bar plus the D bar? Or something else. It's tricky.
And others.
There are bottomonium-like ones with bottom quarks, and even doubly charged ones like TCC, plus that's that.
Doubly charged.
It has 2 charm quarks, both positive charge and then an anti-up and an anti-down antiquark. Add up the charges. You get plus 2. Something you just don't see in regular mesons or baryons.
That is exotic. So the specific quark ingredients matter a lot. And the glue, the binding mechanism, is it just the strong force working overtime?
It's the strong force, yes, but how it holds 4 quarks together is debated. There are 2 main pictures people talk about.
Okay.
One is the molecular model. Imagine 2 regular mesons, kind of loosely bound together, like how protons and neutrons stick together in a nucleus, but maybe even looser.
So like 2 separate couples hanging out nearby?
Sorta, yeah. The ZC3900 might be like a bound state of a D meson and a D meson.
Okay. And the other picture?
Is a compact tetraquark. Here, all 4 quarks, the 2 quarks and 2 antiquarks, are genuinely interacting strongly, all packed together tightly into one single object.
One more intimate group.
Exactly. And figuring out which picture is right for which tetraquark?
Yeah.
That's a major area of research. It might even be that some are molecular and some are compact.
Different recipes for different particles. And stability, do they stick around or poof, gone?
Mostly poof, gone. They're typically very short-lived resonances, metastable. Their stability depends heavily on that internal structure and what they can decay into.
What are typical decays?
Often into 2 ordinary mesons, sometimes emitting a photon. If they have heavy quarks like charm or bottom, they might decay via the weak force, which takes a bit longer.
Is there any hope for finding, like, stable ones?
That's a big theoretical question. If truly stable tetraquarks exist, especially heavy ones, they could have implications for cosmology, maybe even dark matter, but finding them is the challenge.
Okay, so how did we find the ones we know about? After decades of theory, what changed?
It really came down to the experiments. Those high-energy colliders we mentioned, LHC, Bell, BASS in China, they smash particles together with incredible energy.
Making all sorts of particles in the debris.
Exactly. And buried in that debris are these rare, short-lived exotic particles. The first real hints were those resonances, unexpected peaks in the energy distributions seen back in the early 2000s.
Peaks that weren't known mesons or baryons.
Precisely. Bell saw the first strong evidence in 2003 with the X3872.
The particle we mentioned earlier.
That's the one. Then Basic and Bell both found the ZC3900 around 2013 as another big confirmation.
Okay.
And since then, especially LHCb at CERN, they found a whole family of these things, measuring their properties with much better precision.
So the X3872 kicked the door open and ZC3900 and LHCb walk through.
Something like that. The X3872 is probably CC bar plus light quarks, maybe molecular. The ZC3900 has CC bar, U bar, definitely exotic decays tells that.
And the TCC plus the doubly charged one.
Found by LHCb in 2021. 2 charm quarks, an anti-up and anti-down. First one found with 2 heavy quarks. That might make it a bit more stable, or at least narrower in its resonance peak. Very interesting structure.
Each one adds a piece to this exotic puzzle. How do they even find these tiny signals in the collision aftermath? It must be like finding a needle in a haystack.
It is. It involves incredibly sophisticated detectors. Think LHCb, ATLS, CMS at LHC, Bell II in Japan. They track the particles flying out from the collision point.
Measuring everything.
Measuring their momentum, their energy, identifying particle types. Then comes the analysis. A key technique is invariant mass reconstruction.
Sounds technical.
It means you take the particles something decayed into, measure their energy and momentum, and you can mathematically reconstruct the mass of the original parent particle that decayed.
Ah, working backwards from the debris.
Exactly. And if you plot the distribution of these reconstructed masses for many, many events, a short-lived particle like a tetraquark will show up as a distinct peak or resonance at its specific mass.
Like tuning a radio and hitting a clear station amidst the static.
A perfect analogy. Searching for those unexpected peaks is how they hunt for these new particles.
Absolutely incredible work. Now, Schneffel's essay also talks about the theoretical side. Why are tetraquarks such a big deal for quantum field theory and modeling?
Well, like we said, they don't fit the simple Q-bar or QQQ picture that came naturally out of early interpretations of the standard model in QCD.
Right.
Their existence proves the strong force allows these more complex, stable, or quasi-stable states.
Mm-hmm.
So it forces theorists to ask, why are these particular combinations stable? What determines their mass? How do they decay? Can we predict others?
It's like finding a new grammatical structure in a language. You have to update the rulebook.
Exactly. It pushes the theory. One major tool is lattice QCD.
Simulating QCD on a computer grid.
Yeah. You discretize space and time, then run massive simulations to calculate properties directly from QCD principles. Binding energies, quark dynamics. You can even predict new states.
But it's hard.
Incredibly computationally intensive. And there are still approximations and uncertainties involved. It's powerful, but not the whole story yet.
So what else do theorists use?
Effective field theories. Because full QCD is so complex at low energies, you create simpler models that capture the essential physics for specific situations.
Like simplified maps for specific journeys.
Good way to think about it. Things like chiral effective theories for hadron interactions, or specific quark models that treat tetraquark as a bound pairs of quarks, diquarks, and antiquarks.
A compact model idea.
Right, or molecular models. These effective theories help interpret the experimental data and guide the search for new states.
So you need both the fundamental calculations and these more targeted models.
Right.
And how does this fit into the wider search for, well, weird matter?
Tetraquarks are definitely part of that broader picture. We're looking for pentaquarks, hybrid mesons, basically mapping out all the ways quarks and gluons can combine according to QCD.
Beyond the standard textbook examples.
Exactly. And who knows? Could there be even more exotic, stable combinations? Some people speculate about very stable, exotic states being linked to dark matter, though that's still very much out there.
But the main point is, finding any of these exotics deepens our grasp of the strong force.
Yes, and potentially points towards physics beyond the standard model if we find something that even QCD struggles to explain.
Now, this is mostly fundamental physics, but the essay title mentions quantum technology. Does Schneppat suggest any even distant connections?
It's definitely more on the fundamental physics side, but there's a glimmer of connection. The idea is that tetraquarks are inherently complex quantum systems. They involve multiple quarks entangled together in non-trivial ways.
Natural quantum entanglement.
Right. So while you're probably not going to build a qubit out of a tetraquark anytime soon,
Okay, good to know.
understanding the intricate quantum correlations and dynamics within them could, perhaps, inspire new theoretical ideas or approaches in quantum information science down the road.
It's about the foundational understanding sparking innovation elsewhere.
That seems to be the angle. Schneppat suggests that future, more precise experiments, like at the upgraded high-luminosity LHC, combined with better QCD modeling, will teach us more about these complex quantum systems.
And maybe finding more stable ones could reveal something unexpected.
Possibly. And theoretically, people might explore if the internal quantum states of tetraquarks could inspire novel qubit designs, or how these particles might interact in extreme environments, perhaps relevant for future quantum simulators studying things like dense nuclear matter.
So subtle links, potential inspiration, it's not a direct application yet.
Not at all. The essay also draws parallels to other complex quantum systems studied in condensed matter physics, things like quantum dots or superconductors.
Systems with collective quantum behavior.
Exactly. Studying tetraquarks might also shed light on matter in extreme conditions, like neutron stars or the early universe. And the theoretical tools used, sometimes they overlap with models used for, say, topological insulators in material science.
Fascinating cross-pollination of ideas.
It is. So the takeaway isn't tetraquarks for quantum computers, but rather that exploring these fundamental complex quantum systems broadens our knowledge base in ways that could potentially have unforeseen benefits later.
This has been a fantastic exploration, really digging into your Go Schneppat subject. Let's try and crystallize the main takeaways.
Okay, so tetraquarks are real. They're exotic particles. Four quarks bound by the strong force, challenging our simpler picture of hadrons.
And they come in different flavors, maybe molecular, maybe compact.
Right. The internal structure is still being figured out. Studying them is a key test for QCD, our theory of the strong force, and pushes theorists to refine their models, like lattice QCD and effective theories.
And lots of open questions remain.
Definitely. How stable can they be? Are there more types out there waiting to be found? What role, if any, do they play in the cosmos? Future experiments are crucial.
So the big picture significance.
It's really about the ongoing discovery of nature's complexity. Tetraquarks show the standard model, while powerful, might not be the final word. There's likely a richer variety of matter states possible, hinting maybe at new physics. It keeps reminding us the universe has surprises.
A huge thank you again to Jörg O. Schneppat for the essay Tetraquarks, Rätselhafte Teilchen in der Quantentechnologie that sparked this deep dive. It really is amazing to think these four quark particles exist.
It really is.
And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If our understanding of quark combinations was incomplete, what other fundamental assumptions about the building blocks of reality might just be waiting to be overturned or expanded? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.